Hi folks, Matt Easton here, Scholar Gladiatoria. So I'm here with Thomas Riley. We're at Long Point in Maryland, not that far from Baltimore.
No, very close.
And Thomas essentially runs the channel Medieval Review, which I've mentioned in the past and linked to in the past, and so I thought it'd be a great opportunity to just talk a little bit about that channel. So what is it, to start with?
Yeah, so I actually started my channel because I wanted to essentially document my collection. I'd done it just as kind of pictures for a while, and I was like, I like talking about the various swords I own and whatnot. But really, I intentionally, I'm going to start moving into other things. I kind of want to begin doing short documentaries, as it were, because I'm very much a historian at heart. And I really kind of want to begin talking about specific things. So I actually chose Medieval Review because review is a term, especially in the United States, where it's like, that could also just be like news stories, right? It's a review of things happening. So it's kind of a bit of both, but my channel certainly started as just kind of doing, well, sword reviews, essentially is what it comes down to. And I've done other things, but it's pretty much going to be anything that catches my fancy, really, and that's going to be something medieval, honestly. So
the stuff you're looking at is mostly your own, or do you review stuff that other people own it? Or?
I've actually gotten a couple of opportunities. As I've been doing reviews, a couple of companies have actually reached out to me and started sending me prototypes.
Which is always nice. We like that.
Yes. I part of me hates to have to send it back, but I send them back. No, the vast majority of what I've reviewed is actually my own personal collection, because I love the variety. So swords especially, forget the functional side, the artistry that goes into it, and the form, and as it changed from antiquity up through the modern age, there's so much variety there, and so my collection ends up growing because I always want, well, there's that Viking era sword that has a lobed pommel, but then there's the Viking era sword that has a different style, and I now have 3 or 4 Viking swords because of that. And so it ends up being one of those things where I want to own these things. Reasonably, I probably can't, and I will always continue to review whatever anybody would be willing to send me. But obviously that can be hard sometimes. So
if you want things reviewed, and I for some reason ignored you or turned you down,
yeah, I promise I will ship it back to you. But I definitely I like getting my hands on all the variety, and I like trying everything out. So
do you have a favorite? Do you have a personal focus from period or type, or is it mostly swords that you're into, or a certain period that you're into?
Classically, I really like swords. Yeah. The realist in me recognizes swords are always kind of the secondary weapon, but you can't ignore the Arthurian legends. You can't ignore the fact that throughout history the sword has become the symbol for whatever it may be, warfare, nobility, etc. And so that certainly becomes a focus. And then the Middle Ages, for me, I'm absolutely in love with the Middle Ages. Not to say that I don't really enjoy antiquity, and I don't really enjoy modern anything. Any time period. For me, it's history. I love history. Now, Middle Ages, that's my focus.
Have you got a particular favorite? Do you prefer sort of Viking era end of it?
More like High Middle Ages. Yeah. Part of that probably comes from my continued increased growth in HEMA, because there's just a lot more wealth of resources there, so it begins to catch my attention more.
Yeah.
But no, if you can tell me a story, and history is just a bunch of stories anyway, I'm going to start paying attention. I just find that the Middle Ages is ripe with them, and it has just so many interesting things that happened. But certainly, Middle Ages, that's definitely my focus, and that's broad. I know that's broad, and High Middle Ages, if I have to choose one, mostly because I really like the armor and the way it developed and how it looked.
The aesthetic.
The aesthetic of it, the mix, especially before it went full-on plate, and it was this kind of beautiful blend of nice plate, but a little bit of that mail in there, and then you get to that knight in shining armor aspect. Again, very romantic, not realistic at all, but it captures the imagination.
I think it's something I put my hands up. I tend to ignore a little bit. Is in my channel I talk a lot about functionality and evolution of things according to need, but actually what we choose to be interested in, a lot of it is down to the aesthetic, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, some people just love the look of a 15th century longsword. Some people just love the look of a Viking,
Yeah.
Viking era sword. We don't know why. Just something's just cool to you.
And certainly everyone has their own taste. You know, there are some people who really love the way a sword looks. I'm just like, oh my goodness, that is just the most ugly thing. And that's actually one of the things I very explicitly do in my reviews is actually call out aesthetics. I speak to that exclusively, and then I go and speak to functionality exclusively. And I do that because I know that ultimately there are going to be times that someone does not care what it looks like. They just want to know, does it work?
Yeah.
And great, skip over the aesthetic section, go talk about the functionality. But I don't think you can talk about the wholeness of something like a sword without speaking to both.
Yeah. So tell me just a little bit about how did you get involved with this? How did you come into HEMA?
HEMA was certainly born out of my interest in trying to understand the realism, the reality of the Middle Ages. So, especially in the United States, we have the Society for Creative Anachronism. They are the largest. But every time I participated with them, I always felt like it was lacking. I wanted it to be a real steel weapon. And as I began to search, and this was years and years and years ago, well before HEMA is really as well formed as it's become, there were some options out there, but we were still really early on in the internet age, and so the sharing and the wealth of knowledge, the Wikten hour, right? It was just not there, and as I began to be able to research that and find out, oh, this is becoming a real thing that I can go participate in, I was full in right then and there.
Where are you based?
So I'm actually based out of the Atlanta, Georgia area.
Okay,
so it's
cool.
south of in the United States.
Where Walking
southeast.
Dead is based.
Yeah, I would have been more proud of that had the more recent seasons been better.
I love the Walking Dead.
It is also where all the Marvel movies are being filmed now, and Star Wars, some of the Star Wars. So we're getting.
We get some of that as well.
I know. You got
so
Ireland, England, yeah.
We'll take full credit.
So we're all just gonna, Pinewood Studios. It's strange because I've lived there most of my life, and to become the new Hollywood is a little bit strange. People, you see people on the side of the road, and they're all pointing, and you realize, they realize that's where something was filmed.
They
so
recognize that street.
Yeah, that's never been a thing where I've lived, and so that's very interesting. But yeah, it's down that area. Atlanta itself has an incredible HEMA club. That is not the one I'm at because I don't live in Atlanta proper.
Okay.
So I actually run my own club. I'm wearing the shirt for it, West Georgia HEMA.
West Georgia HEMA. There we go.
Shout
out to West Georgia HEMA.
Yeah, it is a small club, mostly friends. We are open for anyone who ever wants to visit. And we are technically pan-European, although we focus mostly on German. Because I'm much better at pronouncing German, and I'm not good at pronouncing German, so don't even try to get me to pronounce Italian. But yeah, the involvement with HEMA, all of that, it's really born out of just my desire to truly understand the history behind it, and it's kind of the recreation aspect at the same time. So much more scholastic a lot of times, but I like to be involved in pretty much anything to do with it.
So Thomas's channel, Medieval Review, what can we expect to see from the future of the channel?
One of the things that I really want to begin doing is documentaries, kind of miniature documentaries. I started taking some online classes to kind of scratch the itch of like, boy, I've been out of school for a while, and United States history, I apologize to anyone who is a U.S. history buff, but it's really boring. European history is amazing, but you can't get good European history in the U.S. So I started taking online courses, actually with Oxford Online.
Cool.
Really interesting, very interesting things. And so then as I began doing research papers and whatnot, I was like, you could do really interesting videos on this topic, right? So I think I'm going to begin doing that as a way to kind of hone my skills as a researcher. And of course that will not always be medieval, like weaponry related. It could be societal or whatever.
Yeah.
But I really want to get into broader topics, so not specific events, but like how this change impacted the rest of history of the Middle Ages.
And the title, Medieval Review, kind of captures that.
Exactly. It's, again, yeah, my channel is going to change. Maybe could have picked a better channel name if I was going to be more
that's a good
broad.
name.
But I really kind of intentionally left it to where it could be either way.
It's better than Schola Gladiatoria. That's no one's going to find that by searching for us.
Everyone recognizes Schola Gladiatoria.
Well,
It is.
maybe now, but it's not a great title by itself to anyone who doesn't know Latin. But anyway, no, that's brilliant, really interesting, and we look forward to seeing lots more from Medieval Review channel. Go and subscribe now.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Matt.
Cheers. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, follow us on Facebook. You can buy t-shirts through Spreadshirt, support us on Patreon, or follow us on Pinterest. Thank you.